I'd like to start this evening's episode with a story for you. It's about the chickens. So, if you're a regular listener, you will know that I had five babies born this year, two of which turned out to be cockerels, which is not ideal because I already have the top cockerel, which is Roland, so everybody's dad. Anyway, I had these two boys born in May, Molly and Lion, and they are now whoomphing great young adults. Lots and lots of testosterone, lots of activity, and they have to be kept well apart because they beat each other up if they get anywhere near each other. Anyway, each cockerel's got their own house and their own pen, and they've each got two girls. And Molly's the baby that had one eye. So I've always felt a little bit sorry for Molly, like he has a disadvantage at life. But boy, is he overcompensated for it because he's got more hormones going on than anybody else put together. He's an absolute devil, but he's a sweet boy. Anyway, he's got two girls, Danny and Dove. And the story is about Dove. And Dove has always had aspirations of greatness. She's a very pretty little girl. And she has always wanted like the best of everything. Whereas her sister Danny is quite happy with whatever she's given. And Dove has decided that she doesn't want to be with Molly anymore. She wants to be somewhere else, ideally with the other group of hens. And I keep saying to her for weeks now, no, this is your home. Molly is your family. You're going to stay and it'll be fine. And every day she's like, I hate it. I don't like him. He's not got any manners. He's always doing adult things to me. And I really want to leave. So yesterday I felt sorry for her. And I thought, you know what? If you want to go back with the other hens, that's fine. So I left the gate open. And she came right up to the gate and she stopped dead. And she wouldn't go through the gate. And I wasn't in the way. She could have just left. But you could see on her face, she's afraid of what she's going to, even though she doesn't like what she's got at the moment. And so I left it for a couple of minutes and I was just watching her. And she would not go through the gate. And I thought, well, I'm not going to force you. If you hate it that much, you'll do it. But you could tell that she was really frightened of what she was going to. And in the end, she turned around and she walked back to Molly. And it just made me realize that we have these push-pull things going on all the time. I certainly do. I'm having to do other jobs to support myself while the cut flower business gets going. And it's really, really tough. Like, it's something that I don't want to do anymore. I've already made like the switch in my head that I'm doing cut flowers and I'm a cut flower grower, chief executive of my own business, and all of that malarkey. But the reality is I'm still stuck in one place and I'm trying to get to another place. And there are days when it just seems absolutely terrifying to make that leap. And it's not so much a leap as more of an incremental thing. Like I'm moving slowly from one thing that I'm doing to another thing that I'm doing and doing them both at the same time. But I kind of get where Dove is coming from, because you can have this sort of pain factor where you really don't want to do something anymore. Like, you want something else and you are ready. And someone opens the door and says, here you are, go and do this. And there are all these things that stop you making that leap. All the fear of the unknown, what you're going to be going to, is it going to be better or worse than what you're doing now? At least you know what you've got where you are now. And you don't really know what you're going to and what it's going to be like and if you're going to enjoy it. So I feel a lot of empathy with Dove at the moment, because I feel like I'm crossing over from one thing to another, and putting the foot over that threshold and making that first step towards something new is exciting, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of fear that comes with it as well, and worries about what it's going to be like and if I can do it and be any good at it. So if you're in that place, or you've been in that place and you know what it's like, well, do I have any advice? Well, one step at a time would probably be what I would say. I mean, in Dove's case, that would take her in the middle of a gateway and she'd be no better off. But I think you get what I'm trying to say. So We don't want to be like Dove. We want to step into the unknown with confidence and self belief, even though on days like this, when it's absolutely honking with rain, I can't tell you how bad it is. And everything is just like a quagmire, and you can't really imagine that anything is going to grow. You do wonder, I do wonder, like, I have to look back at photos and be like, did I really do this last year? Like, because it feels like we've had, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks of non-stop rain, and it's pretty exhausting. But I am taking that step into the unknown, and I very much hope that you'll come with me on the journey. Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello and a warm welcome to the latest episode. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. I am back in the warm now. I recorded that segment earlier on this evening when I was putting the chickens to bed. And I'm glad to be out of the rain. The forecast definitely changed today. It was not meant to be anywhere near as wet as it turned out to be. And I am mixed feelings about the plot at this time of year. I'm really, really glad that I'm on a slope because the drainage is great, and I can tell by the volume of water that's at the bottom of the field that everything at the top is okay, but it's just absolutely treacherous walking around, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse every day. So I think I'm actually going to have to go and put some bark down on the paths, such as they are. But the only issue with that is that chickens just spend all day scratching it around. They think it's the best thing ever. So you end up spending ages just raking it back into little paths. But I think I'm going to have to do that. Now, I have to tell you, I have finally finished my seed sowing plan, and I'll come back and talk about that towards the end of the episode. But when I was walking around the plot yesterday, I realized that I really, really need more space. And I only really worked this out because having finished the seed sowing plan and done all my calculations for all of the annuals that I'm going to be growing, I counted the number of stems that I'm hoping to have, or the number of plants rather, and realized that I don't have anywhere near enough space to do that. So whilst the numbers on the spreadsheet indicate that if I manage to sell everything that I grow, I will hit my goal, my financial goal, which is amazing, I'm not going to hit it if I don't have enough space for all the plants. So I was thinking, where am I going to put things? So I'm going to be much more aggressive is the wrong word. Well, it sort of works. I'm going to be much more aggressive with my plant spacing this year. I'm going to put everything really, 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 really close together. And if anybody looks like they're struggling, then I'm going to move them. But they're all going to start up very, very close to each other because I'm very tired of getting that wrong. And it can't happen this year. But even so, I just do not have enough space. So I was wandering around yesterday, and I was walking around into the area where some of the hens are, where Lion and Little Mo and Kiki D are. And what they've done in their area is that they've actually beautifully prepared the soil for planting for me inadvertently. So it's an area that I've created specifically for the chickens, and the main bulk of them are normally in there. But because of the whole cockerel debacle, there's only 3 of them in this quite a decent sized space, to be honest. But little Mo is a digger, and she spends all day, actually 8-10 hours a day. She is out just digging, and she's done an excellent job. I mean, all of the grass is gone and all of the weeds have gone apart from the odd nettle. So I was looking at it yesterday thinking, this is a fantastic growing space. So I went and measured up how much of it I could pinch for the flowers without leaving the hens with too little space. And there's a reasonably decent sized plot in there. And with a couple of new fence panels, I could close off these areas, plant in them, close them off, and then little Mo can't get in there and destroy the plants. And the quandary I was having was, whether I just be a little bit crazy and fill the space with more roses in addition to the ones I've already got, because I could fit about another 50 in. Or should I just fill it up with the annuals that I have made all of this enormous, fantastic spreadsheet for? And really, the answer is it's got to be for the annuals, because I don't actually have the money to buy any more roses. And I've kind of calculated the volumes I'm going to get from that. And whilst I'd love to have as many roses as possible, I could probably make more revenue from jam packing all of the annuals in. So really, I know the answer. I'm just fighting with myself because um, part of me and a really big part of me just wants to grow roses. But at least I have got this fantastic new space and I just need to pop in and dig up the nettles. I mean, they have been ravaged by the chickens. So there's virtually nothing there, but they definitely need to come out before I put anything else in. So that's actually kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to getting some stuff in there actually. And yeah, it should be good. It should help me achieve my goal anyway. Now, since I recorded last week, I did a bit about the church potentially banning floral foam and imported flowers. And I had a bit of a rant about, would I ban floral foam and imports? And I've actually seen quite a few posts on Instagram about this. And I think it's because I think an article has actually appeared in the American press about this. And it's just getting picked up by lots of the growers that I follow and some of the florists as well. And it was a little bit strange because some, not all, but some of the things I've seen have suggested to florists that they just need to take precautions when they're handling imported flowers. So things like using gloves and making sure that they're working in a well ventilated space. But I really think we need to go further than this, because it's not, I don't think it's good enough to put the responsibility for dealing with a product that's potentially covered in really nasty chemicals on the people that actually have to use that product. I think it needs addressing way, way, way back down the line at the source of these stems, because lots and lots of the workers, and I can't remember off the top of my head what percentage, are actually female out in Kenya and other places actually handling these stems. I've seen lots of images of the spraying actually being done by male workers, but the females are in there as well. And, their working conditions are just pretty awful. And particularly when they have to walk home and they're walking home to these kind of places that have been built around the flower farms, and they're walking home on unlit roads in the dark. Their safety is absolutely nobody's priority, it seems. And florists are predominantly female as well, so I feel like it's a problem created by one section of the market that then has to be dealt with by predominantly women, and stuff like that really, really gets my back up. And I think we really, really need to fix this problem at the source somehow. I don't have the answers for exactly how. And clearly, as a grower, I've got a vested interest in this because I'm trying to sell British grown flowers. But I do recognize and accept that we are not going to ban imports anytime soon. But I do not believe the responsibility for handling these products in a safe way should rely entirely on the end user. So yeah, we need to have a conversation about that. So back to my seed sowing plan. I have actually finally finished mine, but I imagine there's going to be quite a bit of tinkering going on because I just can't help myself. And I thought I'll just share a little bit more about it with you. Now, I watched a fantastic Instagram reel this morning from Kim Fleming at Marston Farm Girl. She's farming probably about 45 minutes away from me. She's amazing and she does the most brilliant videos. And this one was her talking through her seed sowing chart, which looks fantastic. And mine is a lot more complicated, so I'll get into a right mess with mine, I expect. But it was very interesting to actually see her chart, because most people don't ever show you what the charts would look like and what they're actually working on. So it was amazing to watch her, and she talked her way through it as well. So if you haven't seen that, that's on the Marston Farm Girl Instagram. Now, on my sheet, I think I told you that I was going to do about 10 annuals this year. And then I decided that I would get a couple and do like trial, excuse me, I would label them as like trial flowers, and then they didn't really count in the numbers. Then I got a little bit overexcited and bought some more annuals. So I'm up to 17 annuals, which is more than I should be doing. It's very naughty. And some of them are not going to be in enormous volumes. And I think the poppies, from what I'm hearing, I'm not even sure the poppies are going to flower this year. So that might just be something that happens for next year. So I've got some of the old favorites, some things that I did this year, the Ami, Snaps, Cosmos, Craspedia, my little yellow golf balls on sticks, the Didiscus, which I just absolutely loved, Orlia again, Scabious, and Sweet Peas and Zinnias. And then the new ones that I'm doing this year are Agrostemma, Gomphrena, Larkspur, the Panicum Frosted Explosion, the grass. I've got Saponaria I'm trying, and also the Pro Cut Sunflowers, which one of my lovely listeners recommended to me ages ago. So if that was you, thank you very much. I have bought some, and I'll see how I get on with those. So I thought I would just talk you through one of these tabs that I've got going on. So I've got like a master tab at the very beginning, which lists absolutely everything that I'm growing on the plot. So at the top, I've got all of the annuals. Then underneath, I've got biannuals, tulips and alliums, or what is left of my tulips, to be honest. That's very sad. And then I've got the whole foliage section, and then I've got a perennial section, and then I've got shrubs, and then at the very bottom, I've got dahlias. So that was that. And then for each of the annuals, because I'm not doing this for all of the others, I've just done individual tabs for the annuals. And what I have got is basically my seed sowing schedule, plus lots and lots of notes about the flowers and the plants. So I've made a note of things like whether it's a long day plant, any particular things like does it not like this and not like this. I've made notes about harvesting, which the exact time when they need to be harvested, and like the proper time, not just when I go into the field and go, yep, that'll do. That's the actual proper one. And then things like any ethylene sensitivity or phototropism and stuff. Now, it could be overkill, but I think that I would rather, you know me, I would rather have more data than less. And I've got a whole variety of columns going on here, which I'll talk you through. But what I'm still working out is actually how many successions to do. And I'm seeing different things out there, different people doing different ways. And I'm trying to work out what is the best way. So I've seen people who do like 3 successions of something. So they might start something off at the beginning of March, they'll do another one beginning of April, and then they'll do another one beginning of May. And then I'm seeing other people who are doing little batches every single week, just once a week in much smaller numbers. And I'm trying to work out which is the best way, and I haven't come to a conclusion yet. But I thought I would err on the side of caution and do smaller, more frequent ones. So rather than just like 1st of March or 1st of April, 1st of May, I would do like 1st of March, 7th or 14th of March, and do it maybe every week or every couple of weeks. Now, obviously, not all of them are going to be starting in March. The tender ones are going to start much later because they can't go out until all the risk of frost has gone. And it'd be just my luck that we get clobbered with a late frost this year, and I'll end up with a whole greenhouse full of stuff that has nowhere to go. And I don't have a very big greenhouse. So I need to be careful that I can fit everybody in that needs to go in. Now, I can take things up to the plot, but it's getting increasingly tricky to work out where to put things that the chickens can't eat them, because they've been through all of my tubs. I made these lovely tubs last year that had just seasonal plants, and it's just so that it was a nice bit of color, just something that looked pretty. I don't quite know why I thought that, because there's a whole field of cut flowers, but I wanted something nice when I went up to the feed room, that it just looked nice, that it wasn't just like a dirty chickeny place. It's not dirty, but you know what I mean, like a chickeny place. It's very practical and it's not necessarily pretty. So anyway, I've done all these tubs and the chickens have just been through everything, just ransacked it. Like they ate all the petunias, they ate everything. So I have to be very careful about where I put things. And there's also obviously every type of rodent you can imagine. The squirrels don't seem to have made a reappearance after last year. I had that funny little slightly squiffy little squirrel who was born late in the year and caused havoc last winter, but no squirrels on the plot for months and months and months. So I think they may have come to a sticky end, unfortunately, not of my doing, but not everybody is afraid of using poison. So I'm a little bit concerned about taking things up there that are then just going to be a snack for somebody. So I like to try and keep things in my garden where I can just manage what is going on and obviously sort out the watering and stuff. So I've got a column on the left-hand side, which has got the variety of the seeds. So for example, larkspur. This is a new one for me this year, but I am really hoping that these things will be lovely. I've got white king, which looks very beautiful. And I've decided to do, I think I've written down here 8 successions of this, which, well, yeah, no, that should be all right. I've got 400 seeds, so it's just a question of how many I can actually find space for, because I don't think, even with stealing a bit of the chicken's field, I'm going to have space for 400 of those. So I can revise that figure down. Now, the next column has got the sowing to flowering duration. Now, this is the number of days it will take or may take from sowing the seeds to actually having flowers on the plants. Now, this figure is given either on the packet of the seeds, not very often actually, but depends where you get them from. Sometimes they tell you that. Otherwise, there's masses of information online about how many days it takes. You can, in fact, just Google sowing to flowering duration and it'll tell you the number of days. And it's normally quite a wide window. So for larkspur, I have found out that it's between 110 and 130 days. If you know differently, please let me know. But that's what I found. And that is a reasonably long window and also a very long sowing to flowering period as well. And those dates, those number of days rather, depend on so many factors. I think that's why there's such a wide window given. So it depends on your conditions, your temperatures, and basically how the whole germination procedure goes smoothly. So if the stars are all aligned, I'm guessing it's going to be at the lower end, like 100 days, 110 days. And if it's not, we're looking at 130. In the next column, I have got the date that I need to actually pre-chill or cold stratify the seeds for 7 days at 2 degrees centigrade. Haven't worked out how I'm going to achieve that yet because I don't think my fridge is that cold, but I will work that out. That date was calculated off the back of the next column, which is the actual sowing date. So if you start with the sowing date, in the column before the date to pre-chill, that is sowing date minus 7 days. And this, I think, is the advantage of doing it with a spreadsheet. Now, I know lots of people hate spreadsheets and just think, I don't want to ever have to use a spreadsheet. It's an absolute nightmare. But for me, if you had to do all of these calculations in my head or on a piece of paper, I think it would just get really complicated and the margin of error, I think, is much higher. So I prefer to do it on a spreadsheet. And I do think it's a good idea. So once I've decided what my sowing date is, and at this point, it doesn't matter because once you've put the formulas into a spreadsheet, you can change one date somewhere and all of the other dates will update themselves. And this is the real beauty of it. If I did it manually, I'd have to go back and change all of the dates manually. And then the room for error is just huge there. So if you have your sowing date, and I put in, for argument's sake here, 1st of March, the spreadsheet works out that the date that I actually need to pre-chill them is going to be the 22nd of February. Now, in the column after the sowing date, I've got the time to germinate number of days. And this is often given on the packet of seeds. And for larkspur, it's between 14 and 21 days, so between 2 and 3 weeks. And this is another one of these. If the stars are aligned, it's going to be on the lower end, like 14. And if it's not quite right, it will be longer, it'll be 21. So in my next column, I have one called the earliest germination date. And the column next to that is called latest germination date. And this is where I've gone a little bit overkill with the spreadsheet, because I'm sure most people don't go into this level of detail. It's not necessary. But I just wanted to be all over this year. Now, the earliest germination date is the sowing date plus 14 days. And the latest germination date is the sowing date plus 21 days. So it could be something in between, in which case I'll just have something completely random. It doesn't really matter. The point is, it gives me a whole load of dates where I know that I should be looking out for things. Because what I don't want to happen is to have to scrabble around through the seed box and try and find all the back of the packets of things and go, how many days did it say it was going to germinate? Here, all the information is just written down. Now, after the latest germination date, so those kind of columns are kind of not linked, but they're right next to each other. The next column is the time taken to grow them on in days. And this is me saying, if once the seed has actually germinated, I'm going to just completely leave it alone for a week and just let it grow on before I start potting it on. And I've put in 7 days. I think I put 7 days in for all of them, actually, just to give them that time from when they actually germinate and I start to see those leaves coming through. 7 days. And then in the next column, I've put growing on location. And this is going to be the greenhouse. This is the default for all of them, apart from some of the tenders, which I will start inside. The column after that is the earliest possible potting on date that I could have. And this is calculated by the earliest germination date plus 7 days, the time that I'm allocating to them to actually grow on. And then the column next to that is the latest potting on date, and that is latest germination date plus 7 days. Column after that is growing on days, and I've put 2 weeks in here for here. They are going to sit after they've been potted on and just grow on for a couple of weeks. And then the next column is the earliest move outside to harden off date. And that is the earliest potting on date plus 14 days. And of course, next to that is the latest move outside to harden off date, which is latest pot on date plus 14. And hopefully you're still with me and your brain hasn't exploded at this point. Column after that is the hardening off time. And I've put in here, will be longer for earlier germinations. I've put standard 10 days in here for all the successions. So hardening off outside for 10 days. And I have a big table right opposite my greenhouse. And we play the hokey cokey. That's what I did last summer. They come out the greenhouse, they go back in, they come out, they go back in. And we do that for 10 days. And then we have 2 more columns, the earliest possible planting out date, which is based on the earliest move outside to harden off date plus 10 days. And of course, there's a latest possible plant out date, which is latest move outside to harden off date plus 10. And these are really important dates, because if these dates fall before my last frost date, which I've had to estimate to be around about the 3rd week of May, then I know whether or not I am either starting the seed too early, which means that they are ready to plant out, but they can't actually go out. And what I don't want to have is a backlog in the greenhouse. So this is why everything needs to be timed. If I had a polytunnel and I had loads and loads of space, I think this would be significantly less relevant. But because I'm short on space, this is why it's so important. Now, things like the hardy annuals, which are tough, will be able to go out sooner than other things, but they may still require some frost protection, which is not something that I have done before. Like, I can do it, but it's not something that I've had to done, and I haven't got like hoops set up and all the protective fleece and all of that business set up. So what I was trying to do was time things so that they were just ready and they don't have to go out and then require all this faffling around with protection. And they also don't have to be backed up in the greenhouse. So I have a column that says here, covering required if planting before the 20th of May, which is my estimated last frost date. And I think it might actually be a bit too late anyway, as in, I think the last frost might be before then, but that's the date that I based these calculations on. And again, I can change it, it's not a problem, but I had to pick a date. And in this column, I'm just putting a yes, no, or maybe if for that particular succession, it is likely to require covering, assuming I plant it out before the 20th of May. And the final two columns, I hope you're still with me. One is the earliest flowering date and one is the latest flowering date. Now, these dates, the data in these columns is based not on all of the other calculations that I have done myself, but this is actually based on the number of days from sowing to flowering that I have identified for each plant. So for the larkspur, it was between 110 days and 130 days. So if I sow on the 1st of March and all the stars are perfectly aligned, the earliest flowering date I will get is the 19th of June. And the latest flowering date is the 9th of July. So what I'm hoping to do is get some flowers between those two periods. And this is very helpful because when I'm looking at what am I actually going to have to sell, rather, what am I going to have available to sell each week of the 6-month growing season, I will know that on this particular week, I should have larkspur flowering. And then I have got, what did I say, 8 successions. So I've got 8 rows of data, exactly the same as what I've just told you. And I will have an earliest flowering date and a last flowering date for each of those successions that I'm doing. And what this has shown me for other plants, not the larkspur, is if I sow too late, by the time the latest flowering date appears, I know that if it's a long day plant and it gets out in kind of August time, when the days are actually shortening, the plant is not going to flower properly. And this was the mistake I made with my helichrysums last year when I held them back for too long. By the time I got them in the field, they just put on all this vegetative growth. They didn't actually get triggered into flowering because I put them out far too late. So that's really interesting to consider for the timings on this. So I hope all that kind of made sense and didn't just short circuit your brain. It's been quite a lot of work to do, and now it's done. I can just take these dates and twiddle about with them a little bit to make sure that I don't have things that are going to be either ready too soon and then just stuck in the greenhouse creating a backlog, or not ready soon enough. So that's what I wanted to share with you this evening. And I hope that you are coping all right with the weather wherever you are. It is absolutely dreadful in the UK at the moment. And I have to say, I haven't seen a forecast for the US at the moment. So I don't know what is going on there, but I was looking at photos of people's Instagram with the snow and it looks absolutely mental. And I have to say that the UK would completely shut down if we had even half of that volume of snow. It would be chaos. But look, I hope you have enjoyed the episode and I hope that you have a great week, and please come back and join me on Friday. I will be carrying on with a plant profile series, which I'm really loving doing. So enjoy the rest of the week and all the very best.